be very clear. I'm going to be making sure and keeping an eye on whether or not other people come in. So if I pause at the beginning, I apologize at the very to start off with. So, hey, welcome. Everyone, we've got people from literally around the world, the other side of the world. We've got both sides of the US. We've got California, New Jersey. I'm in Seattle. I know we've got a couple other people from Seattle. We've got a person in Australia. So this is really exciting. I'm glad you're all here. Some of you know me. I'm Elizabeth Hughes. Some of you don't know me, which is super fun. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. I am a doctor by training, but became very, very interested in self-healing after I saw a patient of mine have a spontaneous resolution of a chronic illness. And I basically sort of took a total shift in how I practiced and how I thought, and really started to dig into what makes people healthy on their own. What is the basis of health itself, which really is us. So that's why I'm here, and that's what I do. And I wanted to hold this talk, which I did 2 weeks ago, forgot to record it. So I'm back again doing it again. But I realized that the whole COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic has showed that there's a lot of gaps in knowledge about health. Like, there's some really things that I think are basic that are confusing. I saw an Australian study that said something along the lines of 92% of Australians didn't know the difference between a virus and a bacteria. And from a medical standpoint, that's a pretty basic thing. And it's not anyone's fault. It just means that there's so much misunderstanding about health. Oh, we got someone else coming in. Oh, excellent. I'm just going to mute you. Welcome. Thanks for coming back. Oh, let me try muting her in a second. So there's so much misunderstanding about health. I would have to almost say that there's, sorry, I'm trying to mute at the same time. Okay, there's so much misunderstanding about health, and it's a sort of a tragedy that somehow the health system and the education system isn't helping people understand the basics. But beyond that, even if you do know the basics, it's there's a lack of knowledge about self-healing. There's a lack of knowledge about how the body actually heals itself, how it uses medicine, and really the fundamentals of what makes us healthy, what keeps us healthy, what we do behind the scenes that keeps us well. So that's why I wanted to talk about this today. Last time when I did this 2 weeks ago, I did not make slides. This week I decided to make a few slides, but I don't love talking to slides. Like right now I have you all arrayed so I can see your smiling faces, which is awesome. So what I might do is click in and out of the slides, but I realized in the ideal world, I would have a way to put captions along the bottom, like you could get what I was saying from captions, but there's no way to do that. So I'm going to use these slides sort of as little captions. I'll come in, I'll come out of the slides. And so we'll spend time talking. I love questions. I love to make sure that what I'm talking about is really clear for people. And so don't hesitate to put something into the chat, and I'll get to it. But here's the one little housekeeping thing. When I'm displaying my slides, I actually can't see the chat at all. I also can't see if someone tries to enter the talk. So that's another reason why I want to come in and out a fair bit, to make sure that I get everybody, like I keep an eye on how everybody's doing. So I'll ask you. All right, everybody a go? Thumbs up? It's good? All right, awesome. Okay, so let me pull up my slides. I'm going to share my screen, and I just want to go over, here we are, share that, start playing it. Okay, perfect. So this is about the science of self-healing, by me, Elizabeth Hughes. You've met me now. And a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. I am going to talk about the scientific basis of self-healing, including evidence of self-healing that you can see in your life right now as we speak, as we breathe, as we sit here together for the next, I don't know, hour or so. You will have all of these things that I'm talking about are going to be going on, and you'll get an appreciation of that. With that scientific basis of self-healing, I'm going to cover sort of 5 really basic principles that I think everyone should understand. I think it should be part of basic science class in middle school or elementary school. It's something everybody really should know, but very few people do. And I want to say very few people, including doctors, because these self-healing principles are kind of self-evident, but they're ignored by most medical education on all levels. Then I'm going to actually have you get an experience of what it feels like when your body's self-healing mechanisms are turned on, so that you can really know what it feels like. So this isn't all sort of academic or intellectual. This is something that's active, that you'll be able to hear, feel the change. And then I want to just raise a few questions about the future. Sounds kind of crazy, but I want to just sort of bring some things up about, like, what is the future of health like if we all embrace these self-healing principles? And at the very end, I'm going to offer everyone another experience, another little gift. So don't leave before the end, because I have another little gift for you guys too. And if you're watching on the recording, the gift does apply to you as well. So don't think that if you weren't live, because I've got about 20 people I think I'm going to be sending the recording to. If you're not watching live, the gift is still for you. Okay. So I'm going to start with a really bold statement, which is all healing is self-healing. I believe that every single solitary bit of bodily repair, reversing disease, any cures, all of it originates in ourselves. We do it. We do it with some help, but we do it in some cases, not in every case, but we do it ourselves. And you know this because medicine alone or surgery alone can't bring someone back from the dead. And that seems obvious, but people don't think about it. So that there must be something that you need a body for. And I'll go into that a little bit more. So I believe where I've come around to is that I, as a doctor, really just provide some tools, some wherewithal, but that the patient does all of the healing. And this is why getting your own self-healing mechanisms primed is really important, because if your body isn't ready to use medication, isn't ready to recover from surgery, or isn't ready to use the supplements, digest the food properly, none of these other things work unless your body is ready to go and your self-healing power is totally activated. So let me get into the first principle. In medical terms, this is the principle of homeostasis. And homeostasis is the way in which the body maintains its basic function. And I have some notes here, so I'm just going to take a note. Your heart beats more than 100,000 times a day. You breathe, your lungs fill up with oxygen and then expel the oxygen and the carbon dioxide 17,000 times a day. Your liver filters your blood, the whole volume of your blood, 500 times a day. You get a total, think about it as getting an oil change 500 times a day. We are exposed to 60,000 different types of germs, bacteria, viruses, yeast, all of those things every day. That's just different types. We're probably exposed to billions of individual infectious particles that our bodies get rid of every day. That's what homeostasis does. And I'm not saying this to kind of freak you out or make you really concerned, but your body maintains itself, its own function all the time. We don't really give thought to that, but it's happening. And beyond that, our bodies constantly monitors what's going on in our world, what our body's doing, and adjusts. So the blood pressure you need when you're lying down is very different from when you're standing up. And your body, when you stand up, your body adjusts your heart rate and how much squeeze there are on blood vessels in order to maintain the normal blood flow to your brain, which is what you need. There are things like when you're asleep, your desire to, or your function of trying to go to the bathroom is relatively suppressed. Like you just don't feel that urge, and your body just knows how to clamp it down and hold it most of the time over the night. So what's normal while we're walking around isn't healthy while we're lying down, and vice versa. And our bodies make that call. Our bodies do that adjustment without us even having to be aware. Same thing with temperature. If it's cold outside, we shiver. If it's hot outside, we sweat. All of these little things happen. Our eyes dilate and constrict based on light. Your body, it's not a stupid organism. It's not a stupid mechanical thing. It is actually adjusting and making subtle changes 100% of the time. So that's the first principle, is homeostasis, the first principle of self-healing. I'm going to come back and take a break, and actually, let me do that right now. Let me stop the screen share for just a sec. Oh, what have I done? I didn't want to do that. There we go. Let me just stop the screen share for just a moment and make sure I don't have anybody else in. Oh, Patricia's here. All right. Hi, Patricia. I am, oh, are you with us yet? I don't know yet. Okay. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to go back. So everybody's clear on this, that our body's actually constantly maintaining itself all the time, keeping ourselves just the basic function on what we're doing all the time, right? So let me, and if you have any questions, again, I'll come back, throw them into the chat, come back, and I'll come back and get those questions later. So I'm going to go back and share my screen again and get this big again. So the second principle of self-healing is cellular repair. That our bodies are constantly repairing ourselves on the cellular level, and actually the subcellular level, as I'll tell you. We're not born and we don't just stay the same way and then until we stop existing. There is constant, and I mean constant, relentless change, repair, replacement, and through two basic principles. So the first is the principle of apoptosis, or programmed cell death. What happens with programmed cell death is every cell has a lifespan. It comes to a time when it is no longer living and functional, for instance, or it's done its job in a certain way. Skin cells of the top layer of skin move from the bottom of this top layer, I know the bottom of the top layer sounds crazy, but the lowest level of the top layer, and they change form gradually as they move up and are eventually shed off as dead skin. Same thing happens inside the mouth, inside the intestines. There's a constant shedding that's all programmed. It happens all the time. Red blood cells die, white blood cells die. And so we replace something like 400 million platelets every day. I think it's 200 million red blood cells and 10 million white blood cells. And that's just what's going on in our bloodstream. We replace the entire lining of our intestine from tongue all the way out, down to the bottom, down to the anus. Every 10 days, it's brand new. And the small intestine has probably replaced itself every 2 to 4 days in that time. So our cells are constantly dying off, but being replaced by new things. And that even goes for parts of your body that you think are static and stable and solid. It's easy to understand how blood might be replaced, or skin that we can see shed off. But bone is replaced. Bone cells themselves live, I think, like 3 months. Your liver is replaced roughly every year. And even parts of the body, like the heart, are replaced at a rate of about 10% per year. So these solid organs that we think of are all in one shape and never move. Well, they actually are constantly being you're getting new cells. And people say that, I know that there's this idea that we're replaced every 7 years. We're all brand new every 7 years. And I think that that's pretty close to accurate. There might be a little bit of variation there, but it's not an exaggeration to say that we are entirely new. Fat cells, bone cells, heart, nerve cells, everything, every 7 years. So that's apoptosis, the programmed cell death and replacement. But there's also this idea of remodeling. So, and that's what it's called often, that the body itself is always upgrading and repairing the cells themselves, repairing cell walls, replacing transmitters, replacing cell receptors, building new RNA, replacing proteins. All of that is going on. And then the non-cellular parts of the body, the collagen, the bone, all of that holds us together is also constantly being upgraded. We are creating new hormones that we need. We are creating, new neurotransmitters. It's never ending. So even though your cell may be alive for, let's say, 6 weeks, it might have undergone a total overhaul several times in that time, so that all of the cell wall, all the proteins, all the RNA, anything else that needed to be repaired has been remodeled entirely. So this is the rate at which we are replacing ourselves. And again, like the homeostasis, we just miss that level of replacement and repair happens a little bit below the surface that we aren't aware of. So I'm just going to come out for just a moment. Let me get into this for a second. I don't want to get there for a second. And I just want to stop the screen share. Make sure, yep, I've got, oh, looks like Lynn got booted out. I put her back in. Sorry, Lynn. All right, let's just be sure. Yeah, I'll mute you, Lynn. Sorry about that, Lynn. I'm glad you're back. Okay, and I'm just checking. So no questions so far? Everything reasonably clear? Okay, all right. So let me go back and start screen sharing one more time. Okay. So let's play this. Okay. The third principle is, and I hinted at this earlier, is in order for any medication to work, any supplement to work, any diet, any surgery, any acupuncture, radiation, physical therapy, no matter what is being done to the body, your body is required to participate in that. And I want to walk you through a little thought exercise about what it takes to actually get a pill from the doctor's prescription into your body. So if you want to just walk through this for a second, the doctor prescribes a medication, or you decide to take a vitamin, or you order a supplement, or there's an herb that you want. Somehow you have to go and get that from a store. And that's no small thing. If you actually had to think about walking to the store or getting in the car and driving, it would be a lot. But so you have to actually obtain the medication, and that's all on you or someone, who's close to you. But from the moment you put the pill into your mouth, there is an automated system that takes over. You put the pill in your mouth, swallow it down, and that swallowing reflex takes over and propels the pill down into your stomach. In the stomach, the pill digestion starts and acid breaks down the pill. And when it's broken down into a small, and the churning action helps to break it down further. And when it's broken down enough, the body then seamlessly moves the medication into the small intestine. The small intestine breaks it down further, secretes digestive enzymes from the pancreas and bile from the liver to break it down all the way. So that the pill has gone from a pill to tiny little molecules of whatever medication it is. Then the body actively absorbs that medication. None of this is passive. Only water is passive across the body. It's actively absorbed by the tiny little endothelial cells, or the lining of the, not endothelial, excuse me, the cells of the small intestine, that's brought across into the small intestinal cell, gets packaged up in a way that it can get delivered into the blood, because you don't want to have certain things floating freely. So it gets packaged up in a very specific way and sent into the bloodstream. In the bloodstream, your body has to circulate the medication throughout the body until, let's say, a case of an antibiotic, for instance. An antibiotic is concentrated in the area where the infection is. If, let's say, it's strep throat, so the antibiotic's going to get there. The body then excretes the antibiotic out of the bloodstream and into the area where it can be used by the immune system to kill the bacteria. And then after all of that's done, and the bacteria is dead, you still have all these bacterial particles sitting around. And those have to be eliminated, because those cause immune responses. So your immune system then chews up the dead bacteria, breaks it down, sends it back out through the bloodstream, where it's eliminated through the liver or through the kidneys. And then the bits of the antibiotic that you didn't need also have to be eliminated. So in all of that, I just talked everything about what the body does. The medicine, the pill that you took, is a tiny part of it. Just a really small part of what's going on in the whole scheme of everything. It's not, it's said, and I read this somewhere, that the only medical procedure that works as well on a cadaver as it does on a human being is getting your tooth filled. That's really it. Everything else requires that your body be, I didn't want to do that. I'm just going to turn off the screen sharing for a second, because I think someone else is here. Oh, okay. So everything else requires your body to be fully engaged and fully involved in it. And I think of medicine as tools. Same thing goes for surgery. If there's not an active body, surgery just leaves a big hole. Like, there's no clotting, there's no repair, there's no scarring, there's nothing good happens. So you have to have a body in order to make anything work. And in fact, the body does the majority of the work. Medicine's just a tool. Diets are just a tool. Surgery, or let's say any other procedure, is just a part of the problem. not part of the solution, but not the whole thing. It's kind of like if you were building a house and you gave all the credit to the nails. That's not what it is. It's like, you know, somebody built it. It's not just the nails that built it. Okay. All right. I think nobody else is coming in. I'm going to share the screen once again. All right. Let's go back to this one and share that. And I'll start playing again. Okay. So this next point is that the body has what I call a standby mode. This is something that is totally missed in medical training and medical textbooks. It's not that the body works and doesn't, well, let me put it this way. The body has a way of optimal functioning and then a way of sort of minimal bare bones functioning. And medicine does all of its testing assuming one form of functioning. Like, you know, it just figures everybody is the same and the body works exactly the same way under all circumstances. But it's not true. That's not the case at all. I call this kind of standby mode because when the body is under some other physical, emotional, psychological stress and your body's fight or flight the fight or flight part of the nervous system are activated, all of those functions that we just talked about go offline. They're just, I mean, all of the machinery, it's ready to go, but it's not activated. It's not on, it's not working. And I gave the example not long ago of the fact that not long ago I went to my local Target and there was a power outage while I was in there. And so all of a sudden the lights went down, emergency lights came on, so you could see. It wasn't like you were trapped and you couldn't see anything, but the lights were definitely dimmer. The elevator and the escalator stopped working. Nobody could check you out. The refrigerator cases were no longer blowing cold air in the frozen food section. You could wander around and pick things out, but you couldn't actually pay for anything and leave. And so it looked like a store. It looked like a functional store. Everything was there, but nothing was working in the ideal way. And that's exactly what happens to your body when the nervous system isn't ready. Because your nervous system then affects how your immune system works, it affects your hormones, it affects your blood pressure, it affects how your heart works. It's just this cascade. And one of the things that, one of the sort of mysteries of medicine is why some people do so well with certain treatments and other people don't get well. And I believe it doesn't have anything to do with the treatment. It has to do with how the body's using the treatment. So if you're trying to eat really good food that you want, to help yourself, let's say lose weight, for instance, your body's not even going to be able to digest it properly if it's in this standby mode. It's just not going to work. It's just all haywire. Same thing happens if you're concerned about getting same thing happens if you're trying to take blood pressure medicine or something like that to lower your blood pressure. Some people, the blood pressure medicine doesn't work, so people escalate the blood pressure medicine higher and higher. And it doesn't work because your body's not metabolizing it well. It's not distributing it properly. It may have other things going on that are causing the blood pressure medicine not to function, that are basically making it go haywire. My belief, because very few people understand this idea of the standby mode, this is my term, I believe that many, many people, in fact, the majority of us, are walking around in standby mode for at least some of the time. And I talked about how all of those there's all of these basic functions that need to happen. So those aren't happening optimally. You're not getting your cellular repair. You're not getting your homeostasis. You're not getting your cells replaced. None of that happens when you're in standby mode. And you want to be out of standby mode, because all healing happens when your power is fully on, just like the target where the power was out. Okay. Let me just make sure I'm not running too long. Oh, okay, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. All right, and I'm gonna just stop the share for just a moment, make sure there's no questions. Oh, perfect, I managed to do that right this time. So I don't see any questions. Perfect, wonderful, okay. So I wanna go back and I'm gonna cover the last principle of self-healing. And I want to run this play. Yes, okay. So the last one is the idea that the body works on autopilot. That your body has a wisdom and intelligence that it knows what to do. That we don't understand, and in fact, you can't understand. And beyond that, the body learns. So you see this bird here who has built a nest hanging upside down. And you might say, well, how did the bird build this nest? And the basic mechanical answer is, well, the bird found a sturdy branch and then selected pieces of grass that appeared to be the right way, and then started to drape the pieces of grass in a way that held together and has made it secure. But that doesn't explain anything about how the bird had the instinct to build the nest. How did it know how to build on a sturdy enough branch? How did it know exactly the type of grass it needed, how much it would need? How did it know how to get it started? How does it know how to get it so that it's knotted up and is secure? How does it know how to build it with an opening? We don't see the opening, but presumably it has an opening. Why isn't it just building it in a ball? How does it know how to fashion that? Well, it's all instinct, right? And we can accept that when we think about birds. That feels okay. Yeah, bird's got an instinct. But we have this healing instinct within us right now all the time, that our body knows exactly how to do all of those things that I was just talking about. Maintaining our blood pressure, replacing ourselves, digesting our food, making our heart beat, making our lungs breathe, getting rid of waste, fighting off infection. Our bodies know how to do that by instinct, if you will, or autopilot. And just like you can't know how the bird knows how to build a nest, you can watch how it builds the nest. You can watch it, weave it together and make some assumptions, but you can't know how the bird knows how it's doing it. Same thing with your body. Same thing with our bodies. We can watch and observe what's going on and make some guesses about it, but the truth of the matter is the body is so complex that not even the world's most expert doctor or research scientist can really explain what's going on. We are all, as doctors, just observing it. And I'll say that any doctor who claims to know exactly how a medication works or exactly how a body heals itself is really just looking at the mechanics and saying, well, the bird knows how because it knows to select some grass. But how? So the same thing is true with our bodies. And the more, this is in my experience personally as well, the more I try to explain and grasp and understand exactly what the body does and feel like I need that control over it, the more damaging it is to health, because we cannot really control how your body works on it, not at least in the straightforward, I want to fix how this this cell grows. You can't do that on a cellular level. There's not even enough brain power to process how much is going on. So you cannot control. That doesn't mean you can't set the systems up so that they work optimally. That does not mean you can't know when your body is in optimal healing mode. That doesn't mean that you can't experience your own self-healing power. It just means that you have to do it in what feels like a backwards way, in a way that doesn't make a whole lot of sense from that mechanical way that we're taught to think about our bodies. And so that's what I want to talk about next. I actually want to give everyone, oh, here's another picture. Like, how do we know how does the egg, the chick know when it's ready to come out? Like, how does it know how to peck its way out? All of these questions, it just knows. It's instinct. And we shouldn't look down on instinct, because we have self-healing, self-regulating instincts within us all the time. It's what keeps us ticking. Learning how to harness that is the key to self-healing. So I want to, let me just see what my next slide is. Yep, okay, perfect. I'm going to stop the share for just a second. And just make sure there's no questions right now, because what I wanted to do next is give everyone an idea, an experience of what it feels like when your body's self-healing mechanisms are actually on, by doing a little experiment and experience. And then I want to raise a few questions for the future. And then I know there's answer any specific questions. And I know there was a question about sleep apnea, and I'm going to answer that question about sleep apnea in a few minutes. But and then I do want to have you guys stay for another little gift offer. So let me just share my screen again. Let's share. That's not what I want to do. What did I just choose? I just chose the wrong thing completely. There we are, share. Okay, perfect. So what I'd like to have you do now is get somewhere comfortable where you can just relax and feel really supported by the chair, the couch, the floor, the bed, whatever it is that you're currently resting on or sitting on. And I'd like you to think back to a time when you might have experienced a sense of complete trust in some other person or some other situation. This is a little bit different than feeling a feeling of love or excitement or gratitude. Those are good things, and I'm not knocking those. But for this exercise, you want to feel trust. You want to feel a situation where you knew that whatever happened, someone else was there to care for you, or something else was there to care for you. And I pulled up this slide because I'll just share my trust feeling, my trust sense is, and this reminds me of it, is when I was a kid, when I was 6 or 7, I was still way too old to be frightened by thunderstorms. And I had an uncle who sat with me through a thunderstorm and taught me not to be afraid. And I had so much trust in that moment. So I want you to find a memory from the past. You could close your eyes, preferably, and kind of walk yourself through that experience. Doesn't have to go any pace or particularly quickly. And be sure that you don't fast forward or don't jump to another situation. Just stay with that memory of feeling completely supported. Where you had absolute trust. Breathe that in a few times. Now, as you're feeling this feeling of trust, I'm going to ask a few questions that you don't have to answer aloud, but they're just going to help you hone in on that feeling. Where in your body do you feel it the most? Really concentrate on that part of your body as you feel it. If this feeling has a shape, what is it? And if you're a visual person, you can visualize that shape right in your body, right where you're feeling it. If the feeling has a color, what is it? It doesn't have to have a color, but if it does, take that shape and make it that color. And make it firmly in your body, part of your body. And if that feeling of trust has a temperature, what is it? It doesn't have to have a temperature. Just feel that temperature. It might be warm. It might be like a cool breeze. And if the feeling has a texture, how does it feel when you touch it? Is it smooth or fluffy or soft? So now, sit with this feeling a few more breaths. This is the feeling of your self-healing mechanisms turning on. Right now, your cells are repairing themselves, getting rid of old debris. Reversing any damage. Getting rid of any infections. Replacing blood cells. All because you've taken time and a few breaths to turn on your self-healing mechanisms. And the great thing is that now that you have your feeling, it could be a shiny golden star that feels warm. It could be a cool, watery feeling that you're immersed in. Whatever it is for you, you can activate your self-healing systems whenever you want. Just take 5 minutes and bring this feeling back. All right, another couple breaths. We can all come back when we're ready. I want to stop the share for just a moment. I think I'll stop that. Yeah, perfect. Anyone want to comment or share anything about that experience? Oh, and I would be remiss in not reminding because I see Nikaya here. Of course, this is you don't have to wonder what part of your body is getting better when you do this. It's sort of global holistic health. It makes everything get better, all of you. So you don't have to, be concerned with, am I, is this good for my liver? Is this good for my immune system? It's good for all of you. So any questions or comments, or anybody want to share anything? You can either unmute yourself or write it in the chat if you want me to read it out loud. Because I want to bring up a few questions about what could happen next in the world. Like what would happen if we all used this technique and we all had our bodies optimized for health all the time? I see a world where we don't need a lot of healthcare. I see a world where people are in such health that big hospitals, doctors, and the huge and vast expense that we spend just aren't necessary. I think health is going to look very different in the future. I think it's going to be a lot more about doing small things that help you throughout your life rather than big illnesses that build up in the end. And that we're going to get a lot more life out of life when we're doing things that keep us healthy along the way. I believe that, right now in the US, I know we've got people here from Australia, but we're spending over 17%, nearly 18% of our money right now. Our gross national product goes to healthcare. Much of it for things that your body can actually repair itself. I would love to see that money go back to other things. I mean, I think we would all like 17% of our money back again, to be perfectly honest. It's a huge, there's huge potential here. There's enormous potential. I think it's enormous untapped potential. And it's at our fingertips. I mean, it is in our fingertips right now as we speak. So I know this is a big vision. I know it seems a little bit sort of like utopian maybe and too big, but I actually firmly believe this is how people were keeping themselves healthy before the advent of modern medicine about 100 years ago, 120, and we'll keep ourselves healthy for the future. I think modern medicine and conventional medicine has its role, but it's sort of overshot and thrown a lot of good self-healing out along with all of the along with everything that comes with the good. That purely scientific way is actually limited our healing abilities. So I just want to really quickly offer one thing to everyone. And so I want to just pull up the screen share. And then I know that there's questions, or at least I know I have at least one question to answer. All right. So For you guys who are here and anybody watching on the replay, I am going to do a special group intention healing meditation 1 week from today at exactly the same time, 5 p.m. Pacific. This is a live in-person thing. I am not going to be recording it. It doesn't work if it's recorded, really. It's going to be something that you have to experience, and everybody's going to be participating in it. So it's not something you can, like this, you can watch out of the corner of your eye. You can do something else. You could be cooking dinner right now, which is fine. It's dinner time, at least here on the East Coast, or on the West Coast of the US. But it's something that this will be a participatory thing. Many people who would like can show up. There's no limit, but you have to show up live in person to participate. Now, if enough of you say, I can't make it Thursday at 5, I can consider doing it another time. I could find a time either earlier on Thursday and run 2 of them, or do one on a Tuesday, one of those. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Again, totally my gift. It's not going to be a repeat of what we did today. It is going to be something totally different, totally participatory, and wow, blow you away, powerful. So that's every person I've done it with has said that's what it's been. So I'd love to have you join me to really experience another way of turning on your self-healing advice experience, and it's pretty amazing. So we'll spend some time then, and so I hope you can join me. And if you can't, or you really want to and the time just doesn't work, just let me know. I'm going to be emailing all of you this recording. I'll email you that invitation as well. So just let me know if it doesn't work, and I can find one other time to do it. If there needs to be a core number of people who can show up at another time, it needs to be like 4 people need to be able to do it at the same time, but we can do it with as many as we want. Okay. I've been talking a lot. I don't have any tea. All right. Fabulous. So I know there was a question about sleep apnea that was emailed to me earlier. And so I want to answer sleep apnea from my standpoint and where I see, because I do work with a lot of people. In fact, I just did some intuitive readings for a person with sleep apnea just a few weeks ago. So sleep apnea is, for people who don't know, it's a condition where your body wakes itself up, oftentimes because there's not enough oxygen, or there's a buildup of carbon dioxide. You fall asleep and you stop breathing, you forget to breathe. And this is back to that very first principle I shared, which is the homeostasis, that there's a lack of regulation of that basic breathing while I sleep part. What I've found when I've worked with people intuitively is most people with apnea, sleep apnea, have some feeling that it is not safe to go to sleep. There's a real sense of, when I'm asleep, I can't control what's going on, and it's not really feels fully safe. And what's funny, some people don't have that. Some people show up with sleep problems where they have nightmares or they'll have insomnia. But I've found with sleep apnea that there is developing a sense of trust around your body's ability to regulate itself while it's asleep. It's safe while I'm asleep. I am safe while I'm asleep. I breathe safely. I continue to breathe while I sleep. There's some affirmations that you can use, and there are things you can do, techniques I use to help those affirmations go in and stay. If you're ever interested. But that's what I've found, is that sleep apnea is that disruption of the homeostasis, oftentimes because there isn't a sense of safety underlying it. So you got to stay awake. If it's not safe to sleep, you'll wake up and you keep waking up, right? All right. Any other questions for me today? Anything else that anybody would like to share? Good, bad, this was helpful, this wasn't helpful, I loved your slides, I hate your slides. Anything like that.
It's Anamika. I have a question.
Yes, hi Anamika. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for doing this. So, is it just during the meditation part that you're healing, and as soon as you're kind of out of that part, it stops healing? Or is it basically healing until you have another stressful fight or flight
Um,
moment happen in your day?
yeah, oh, I love that question. So, um, we should, this is the ideal state, is we should be feeling some of that healing feeling most of the time. So if, when you're feeling fight or flight, obviously it's off. But when you're feeling as close to that state that you got, that's when you know things are activated. And a lot of times, that's what I said when I said that a lot of people are running around in standby mode and not recognizing it. It's because the feeling of not feeling well has become so habitual that you forget. You think that this is normal, but it's not really. It may be normal, but it may not be healthy. And those fight or flight moments really are little waves on top of an ocean of abnormal nervous system response. Does that answer that question? Yeah. Okay, perfect. I love that. Hey, any other questions or comments? All right. Well, you've all been really awesome. And I have been recording this. Oh, Marilyn, it looks like you're on. Hey, hi.
I like the slides.
Oh, God, thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. Slides are better. I'll keep them. That's perfect. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, it's a little after 6. You guys have been really great. I hope that I will be able to see you next Thursday, same time, for a different type of healing experience. If you're interested, no preparation is required. Anybody can do it. And so, and if that time doesn't work, if I hear enough people who say it doesn't work, but they want to participate, I will find another time. But if you do want to participate, please realize this is something that I'm not going to record, and it's very much, we're relying on your participation. It's a real active process. Okay. Hey, Marilyn, David, I've got you all on my screen. Marilyn, David, Anamika, Lois, Jill, Julie, Nikaya, Lynn, and Patricia. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's been lovely. It's really been my pleasure. And I hope to see you all again really soon. Bye for now.